Hi, my name is Peter Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm joined today by Eli Anderson, storyteller from the United Kingdom, who has some fascinating insights to share with us. Before we begin, Eli, how did you become a storyteller?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you so much for inviting me to this interview. The how I became a storyteller. Well, I've been writing for a long time, for maybe 20, 30 years. But I was working as an executive for a very long time, working to support a very big organization with a range of people, and I really loved it. And what happened was that during that period of time, was researching my history, my family history, with my cousin, and I'd gone to Ghana. And in Ghana, I went to a place called Elmina Castle. And when I walked around Elmina Castle with the person who was there that was taking all of us, he showed me a whole range of things that I'd known about. And I said to him, well, look, I know most of this, but you live here. Is there no way that you can really tell me what happened from your perspective? And for about 30 minutes, I badgered him to take me around again without everybody else. And he then took me around and really told me some things that he'd heard from his parents, from people that went before him. And that placed me in a traumatic state. There's a type of crying that you cannot cry out. The crying, I suppose, in my hindsight, was so part of the trauma that had happened in Elmina Castle for the Africans, that I couldn't stop crying. And there's a place called the Door
Elmina
of No
Castle.
Return.
That's the place
Elmina.
where Elmina, where the slaves were actually departed Africa for the New
That's
World.
right.
The
That's right.
actual
That's one of a
location.
number of things. Yeah. So there were a number of different colonial powers that had managed that. And I went to the place of no return and sat in that kind of cave looking out at the water. And I was just mortified. I was in complete tears. And during that period of time, this little multicolored bird flew in, perched, and didn't stop singing until I stopped crying. And then when I came back to the UK, I realized that although I loved what I was doing, that wasn't what I was supposed. I wasn't walking in my purpose.
Wow.
And at that point, I made a decision to become a storyteller. And I knew that was in a way that my ancestors had been talking to me. So that was my purpose. And I came back to the UK, and within a few months, I started doing that, started teaching, started to research.
Amazing, amazing. Tell me about more of your teaching and your research, and how it helps people.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because part of the teaching for me is about enabling people to to rediscover and reconnect with their own story. Because I believe that one of the things that's happening, certainly within this world, is that people's stories are being eviscerated, they're taken away from them, destroyed, to the point at which that there is a feeling that there's only one story to be made, one story to be told. And that is dangerous, really dangerous. And there's a book by a guy called David Crystal who talks about language death. And he talks about the impact of the removal of languages. So every month we're losing 10, 20 languages that are just disappearing. And because of the impact of other languages, but also with that is the eradication of stories that are encapsulated within the language. And so we've got loss of language, loss of culture, loss of a whole range of things. And that for me is a really desperate situation,
Mm-hmm.
really desperate situation. And so part of my teaching is about getting people to reconnect with their rich heritage, reconnect with their languages, and reconnect with those stories, because those stories within them is so much. There's a medicine in those stories. There's a echoing from the past. There's a way of placing those stories in the modern age, really,
Mm-hmm.
because people are wired for story. And the less stories that you have, in a way, it's like having only one or two medicines for a whole
Mm-hmm.
range of different things. And we know that doesn't work. And
Brilliant.
so, yeah, so part of my research is around something called destorialization, which is talking about the evisceration and what happens to people when they lose their story. And that for me is a really, again, it's critical. I did a lecture a couple of weeks ago. A couple of people have come to support me. I know I'm going to be delivering that as a kind of series of 3 lectures towards the middle of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because so my teaching and what I do in terms of trying to get people to recognize that is really for me to say, in a way, I'm just trying to open the door for you to get access to the stories that you have, but also to be able to access the stories of other people. And once you begin to connect with those stories,
Mm-hmm.
then something quite magical happens.
Hmm.
Something
Tell it.
absolutely
Yeah.
magic.
What does happen? How is this relevant for
It's
and is it relevant only for selective people that have a traumatic story like yours, or is it relevant to all kinds of people?
Well, I think it's relevant to all kinds of people. The issue that we have, certainly in this kind of this global phenomenon at the moment, is around people losing their stories. And some of the work that I've done in hospitals and mental health situations is that people, when they go into some healthcare facilities or go into places where their stories are not valid, it begins to erode who they are. And if you begin to erode the person, then you erode the magic that they can give to other people, or the ability to be able to receive stories. Is a little bit like love. If you can't love yourself, it's very difficult to love anybody else. And so without those stories that are part of our makeup, that we are wired for, it's hard to be able to interpret and listen and understand the stories that are going around us. And we live a very isolated life. And we know that so many people at this point in time, COVID willing, are, are the recipients of that isolation, the ability not to be able to tell your story, the kind of
Mhm,
voicelessness that happens.
mhm,
And so therefore that's what I'm trying to do. And the impact that that has is being able to, for instance, there's there are so many stories, but one particular story, I was working in a hospital and the group of people had various neuro impacts, neuro injuries, eyes, strokes or amputations, etc., etc. And so one of one of the group said, um, say I've been working really hard with the occupational therapist to make my arm work. I haven't been able to do that with my legs, but this is really good. And I simply said to him, I acknowledge the fact that what he was doing was reconnecting with his story, and said, "You're perfect." And at the point at which I said that, he burst into tears.
wow.
He was able to begin that process of healing.
And release. Wow.
Absolutely. These are the sorts of things. And in a way, what I'm here to do is help people heal, help people reconnect with the stories that are within them that help them heal, help them become human, help them become sentient. Yes. I
Wow.
hope that helps.
Yes, tell me this. How do you do that? And where are you going? Do you just go into healthcare facilities? How does it work? How would someone
Okay.
work with you if they wanted to?
Okay. Yes. So what what I have been very, very grateful and fortunate for is that people tend to look for me. I do narrative coaching as well, and so at this moment, I don't really advertise. I don't advertise for the storytelling work either. So people hear from me from other people, and they say, "Well, look, can you do this? Can you help me? Can you help me connect with other things?"
Hmm.
And that's the really wonderful thing for me is that on the website for Story Aid, my vision is to help people reconnect with their stories. But I set myself a task of 1 billion people.
Wow.
That's my
Wow.
task.
Wow.
And as a result of that, I don't know. I think it's definitely the energy that's going around is that I have been able to do work in that way. I've been able to reach people, and certainly the piece of work I'm doing at the moment, which is a European piece of work, which is humanizing healthcare through storytelling, that has the potential to reach thousands of people. Now, for me, it's not just the thousands of people, but if you
Hmm.
can imagine that thousands and thousands and thousands of people have this rich understanding of what love is and what their story is, and they wish to share, and you have this kind of Ubuntu, I am because you are, then the more that increases, the more people have the facility to feel safe and to feel honored in their story.
Hmm.
And so it's not just about the next person. It's not about, me creating numbers, but it's actually about how many people are going to preserve their story, preserve who they are, preserve other people, look after people.
Right. And
I
feel
think that's it.
connected in a strong
That's
way
it.
with this experience
Absolutely.
of being alive.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That is that's the whole point of me being here.
Hmm.
I think as every human being, we are here to help others.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
that's the main thing. And we're
And now,
separated. Sorry, carry on, please.
no, yeah, go ahead. And we're separated.
We're, we're separated by something that's quite false.
Hmm.
That the idea of power
Hmm.
and um, and actually, I was told that your gift is only a gift when it's shared. So we need to be sharing what it is that we have. We need to be doing that. And the more that we do that, the more it's like blues. You play the blues, somebody takes it, they move it on. It's not yours. It was never yours. It was something that came from somewhere else. And
Hmm.
that's what we're trying to do, increase the nature of how people heal each other, because that's what we can do.
And so you said it's for healthcare. So you're looking for hospitals or aging facilities, or um,
Ah,
what does it look like? How do people
okay.
contract with you, and who should that be?
Okay. Okay. So I think one of the things that I need to say also is that I'm not just working in healthcare, but working in education. I end up working in fashion. I'm ending up working in mental health. I'm ending up doing all sorts of things. And I think that's the exciting thing about the work that I'm doing is that it has a purpose everywhere. I've worked with people in construction and worked with
Sports would be
all those
great.
people. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's we I cannot limit myself to a discipline or a profession. But what I do can do is to say to people, look, if this is part, if you want to really examine and understand what you are and where you are, then let's do some storytelling work together. People find me through LinkedIn. People
Hmm.
find me through maybe Facebook, but most people find me through LinkedIn and
Hmm.
through the contacts I've made already. And that's how people connect with me. Or in strange situations where I'm doing something else with a group, somebody else within that group will say, "Look, I need you to come over here and work with us." Whether it's a big NHS or to work with people in a whole range of different disciplines, or colleges or schools. In fact,
Wow.
I'll be working with a school in a moment. Yeah,
Excellent.
working with a school.
Fascinating interview. And I hope you agree. Um, and I just had one other question. If you could
Yes, of
reveal
course.
some
Please ask
secret.
away.
Tell us one of your secrets in your toolbox. Now, suppose here's the scenario. No, I'm watching
Yes,
this. I'm in a rural
of course, of
area.
course,
I'm not in
of
the
course,
UK. I live
of
with my
course.
grandmother.
Okay.
How would I approach her? What are some of the tools that you would use if you were in a situation like that, and
Oh,
they
my,
wanted to
this
do
is
what you were
wonderful.
describing?
Oh, wonderful. With elders, they are the repositories of story. So I would say to that person, if you're in the house with
Hmm.
your grandmother,
Hmm.
this is a time for you to switch off your phone, switch off the television, switch off the radio, and really say to her, what was your life like? And shut up and listen, because you're going to get so much stuff, so much information, so many stories, so many bits of wisdom in that 2 hours that you're there with your grandmother that will serve you for the rest of your life. To
Hmm. Hmm.
generational medicine you will experience will be something that you will use for yourself, for your partner, for your children, and for people around you. Really get to understand what those stories that your grandmother has. Really get
Hmm.
to understand them and where they come
And I
from,
guess,
because you're going to be telling them later.
yeah, yeah. And I guess it could be a question like, Grandma, do you remember a difficult time in your
Yeah,
life? How did you get
absolutely.
through that? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
Did you
yes.
always love Granddad? Did you guys ever have a fight or
Yeah,
anything? And those are anecdotal.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those are the things, because you don't know. You don't know what is about to come your way. And knowledge and experience and learning is everywhere. You just need to be open to it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you guys have had, 15 minutes with a true magician, a
Oh, bless
man
you.
who is
Thank
able
you.
to bring the stories out of people. And we'd
Thank you.
love to see your work in, like some of your actual
Absolutely.
practice of how you do this, bringing stories
Welcome.
out of people. Yeah.
Welcome.
And
I'll, I'll give
healing
you
them.
some. I'll give you
Mhm.
some. I'll send some a
Sure.
link to you to some of the European work that I'm doing.
Great, great. Healing people through stories, allowing them to feel connected with the earth, allowing them to pass on their wisdom and knowledge, and allowing them to uh, have a sense of being and relevance and honor
Yes.
and dignity by
Yes.
sharing their story, which is
Yes.
something that we're born with. We're all kind of
Absolutely.
writing the story of our lives as we live it.
Yes.
Eli, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. How will you get to 1 billion people?
Oh, with people like you, we are now connected. We are now connected. There are other
Yeah, that's
people
true.
there. Every connection is something about getting to that 1 billion, and
Right.
it's exciting to be able to. The way you put that together was beautiful.
Mhm.
That was beautiful. Thank you. That
Oh,
really
no problem.
raised my heart. That really touched me. So this is the connection that I have with people, whether
Mhm.
it's 1 minute or 5 minutes or 20 minutes. That's how I will get to a billion. That's my hope.
Wow. Well, folks, you heard it here first. So thanks so much, Eli. Really appreciative
Oh,
for your time and looking forward to seeing more great stuff coming from you, more
well, my
insights
pleasure.
and more narratives. Thanks again. All right.
Thank you very much.
Namaste. Yeah.
Namaste. Good stuff.